Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting round of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are you all doing, everyone? And also, how are you Americans doing? Because I know you guys got a holiday going on as I am recording this. I know I've been doing fine. I've been taking it easy lately, especially when last week I did a whole lot of work, especially on the latest reviews that would come out, including my latest review on the Garfield movie. So I do feel pretty rejuvenated since then. So now I'm ready to go and get back to work, but especially to go and bring you all one exciting episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. But also, I just want to go and give you all a little bit of a warning right now, because this isn't just going to be exciting. This is also going to be a very emotional episode. This episode in particular will be dedicated to all of the little emotions that are inside your head. Yes, all of those inside out characters that are within there. Yes, it is going to be for those guys, because trust me, on this episode, there is going to be a lot that we are going to get into, and that they will go and have some strong reactions. And I mean a whole lot of them. A lot of frustration, a lot of sadness, a lot of joy, a lot of fear, and maybe some disgust as well. Like all the main 5 of the Inside Out characters will be remembering this episode because of the stories that we are going to be covering. So, with that said and done now, hopefully that does mean that all of you are ready for this. So just to go and double check, I would like to go into the chat wall and I'd like to ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Who is ready now? Let's see. Do we have people prepared in the first place? Let's see. Yes, okay. I see people are ready. People are prepared. That is great. That is awesome to see. And so I think with that said, it will go and initiate some things. And it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story that we are going to look into, we're going to do something that I haven't done in a very long time, which is talking about the box office. It's been quite a while since we've seen anything from the box office that has made a massive impact. I mean, we've seen a lot of great things that did occur and a lot of bombs that did happen, especially last year when you do have a big combination of the two. Rather it be the huge success of Barbenheimer, the surprising success and the big comeback of Elemental, or the failures of many Disney movies. But in this case here, we're going to be looking into something a little bit different. We are going to be looking upon what is going on right now, and let's just say it's not really looking good. So with that said, let us go and discuss about the box office, specifically with what is going on with the 2 new big movies that came out during the weekend, Furiosa, a Mad Max movie, and the Garfield movie. And to the surprise of many, it looks like they are very much neck and neck. In fact, let us just go on to my source here on Box Office Mojo. And as you could see here, with Furiosa and the Garfield movie, they're pretty much tied. Now, yes, it is true, Furiosa has a little bit more than Garfield, but not by much. In fact, the differences between the two is just under 1 million, where so far, Furiosa has a total of $25.5 million and in first place at the domestic box office. And the Garfield movie has a total of almost $24.8 million. And keep in mind, this is only with the regular 3-day weekend. This does not count Monday, which I am recording this right now, like specifically on that day. Apparently, they are saying that when it comes to both Furiosa and Garfield, oh, we got a new fish. Thank you, Meta Ralph. All right, but anyways, back to what I was saying. But the big factor is going to be how things will be for Monday, March, what are we again? The 27th. Yes. So, specifically with this Memorial Day, people are going to see how things are going to go with either the Garfield movie or Furiosa to see who is going to win the Memorial Day weekend and who's going to come out on top. Because there is that possibility that maybe the Garfield movie is going to make a little bit more than Furiosa, thus putting it on top in first place for that Memorial Day box office weekend. And in terms of what they may ultimately get, right now box office analysts are predicting maybe somewhere around, somewhere between 30 to 32 million for each of them. But who is going to be getting what? I guess we will go and wait and see on that. And the first thing that I want to go and talk about, the first one that I really want to go and analyze is specifically with what's going on with Furiosa, a Mad Max movie. Because many people right now are absolutely shocked at what is happening with Furiosa. Because based on what we have seen so far with the film, it looks like it was on a good path to become the next big hit for 2024, because it's got everything that it needs to do so. It's a prequel to a very beloved feature from the last decade, like the prequel of Mad Max Fury Road. So far, it had a great debut at the Cannes Film Festival, and it also gathered a lot of very positive reviews from critics. Many of them say that maybe it's debatable if it's as good as Fury Road, but it is still a tremendous film as is. And yet, that still doesn't seem to be enough in order to gather an audience to come and see this movie, to really go and launch things off for this year's summer season, or at least the summer season for movies. But why is it that it's not going well? And there was a part of me that was thinking, okay, maybe it's because of those reviews that do say that maybe it's not as good as Fury Road, thus making it not a major priority for people to go and actually watch Furiosa. But then again, I realized that doesn't necessarily make sense, considering that Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes have those same kinds of reviews. In fact, it seems that critics seem to favor more with Furiosa more so than Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And yet we have seen with that feature a few weeks ago that it actually did tremendously well for itself. Well, I don't know if I would say tremendously, but it did do well where it doesn't look like it's going to be a flop whatsoever. It had a strong start at, I believe, $56 million on its opening weekend. If that's not the case, you could go and correct me on that. But what would be the case for Furiosa? What is making people to go and hold back from watching that film? Well, on my source here on Variety, there is a little bit of an explanation. Let me just go down and see. Yeah, it's right over here. Now, this is according to the analytics, as it says here. Analysts believe that Furiosa missed the box office mark because, despite the hype from Fury Road, the R-rated prequel didn't appeal beyond its core demographic of older male moviegoers. And in general, prequels are a tougher sell because, well, audiences know generally how those stories end. And I mean, that is technically true. And there is another argument that I could go and say, and it really is because of the fact that technically it is a Mad Max movie. And when you do look at how much Fury Road actually made, I mean, it's impressive for what it did, but it's not like a tremendous amount. It didn't make like massive amounts of money where it would cross $1 billion. In fact, it even says here, that now it'll have a hard time living up to its predecessor, 2015's Mad Max Fury Road, which captured $45 million over 3 days and ultimately grossed $380 million globally. And in that regard, like, when you do think about it, when the movie makes $380 million globally, like, by today's standards, that doesn't sound like a whole lot. So if it would be a downgrade from there, then yeah, that would be a bit concerning. Not to mention the fact that with Mad Max Fury Road, it's got a pretty hefty budget. I believe it is somewhere between 160 and 170 million. So it's already off to a very terrible start. And it's starting to feel a little bit doubtful if it could ever find a way to go and like climb itself back up so that it could find a way to actually be profitable. But then there is the factor, and some people apparently are saying 162 million, or I see like some like estimates. Some people are saying it's around somewhere between 154 million and 185 million, and that could be a possibility. But the thing is, though, there's also another factor that some people would want to talk about, and that is related to the Garfield movie. And some people could argue that maybe it's because of the competition with the Garfield movie why Furiosa is not doing that well. And in that regard, I just want to say this: absolutely not. I do not think that the Garfield movie had much of an impact in terms of what happened to Furiosa, especially with the fact that those two are going for completely different audiences. I don't think there is a single person in this world who had a very tough decision to either go watch Furiosa or the Garfield movie. I mean, I don't think there's someone who's standing in the movie theater checking out what's available and they're just like really perplexed, like, I don't know, man. I mean, I see Furiosa, and I mean, I heard a lot of great things. It's been getting great reviews. And I mean, I love Fury Road, but the Garfield movie, though. I mean, Garfield and his hatred for Mondays and love for lasagna. I don't know which. It's such a tough choice. You know what I mean? I don't think people are doing that whatsoever. And not to mention the fact that with the Garfield movie, while Furiosa has been gathering some strong reviews, Garfield, on the other hand, oh boy, the reviews there, they have been severe. I mean, I didn't really like the movie much. Like, with my review, I gave it like a 5 out of 10. Like, there have been some cute moments, but I could see how it is a pretty generic movie. But oh my god, if you have seen some of the reviews that critics have been putting out, especially from the bigger ones, they have been severe. Like, calling it one of the worst animated movies of the year kind of bad. Like, not as bad as like Megamind versus the Doom Syndicate, but pretty close. It's the kind where even Wish is looking at the Garfield reviews and saying, holy crap, man, what did you do to piss him off like that? So yeah, like, even though it would have those negative reviews, that's not necessarily something that would really affect the Garfield movie, because the Garfield movie is not meant to go and impress critics and audiences. It is meant for children. That is the target demographic, and it's up to them if they really want to go and see it or not. And I would say that in Garfield's case, even though it's making the same numbers as Furiosa right now, Garfield is in a much more comfortable position, especially with the fact that it has a very modest budget, or it's been reported to have a very modest budget of around $60 million. And in that case right now, I think, honestly, Garfield is gonna do fine. It's not gonna be like a massive box office hit. I don't think this is gonna be anything that will be breaking records in 2024, but I do think it's not going to be something where Sony and Alcon are going to lose money. I think they're going to be fine with how Garfield is doing, especially when you do look at how much Garfield is actually making. It's not just doing well, you know, it's not just doing fine domestically, even right now where, already we got the domestic numbers. Apparently they say it could be around almost 32 million domestically. And even internationally, it's already gotten 66.3 million and a worldwide total of 98 million. So almost $100 million. So safe to say that the Garfield movie is going to make a bit of its money back. Not necessarily, it's not going to go and reach the same numbers as Kung Fu Panda 4, but it is going to be fine. But the point that I am making is that with the Garfield movie, it's not going for the same audience as Furiosa, and it's already in a very comfortable position where it's not going to face any competition anytime soon. The only competition that's going to be coming up that could threaten Garfield's potential to make more money at the box office is Inside Out 2, and that thing isn't going to be coming out until June 14th. So for now, Garfield is completely fine. It doesn't have to worry about imaginary friends or anything like that. Like, it could sit pretty, it could just do its own thing, and it will be fine. But Furiosa, on the other hand, it is actually very concerning, and not just concerning for that feature film, but also with how the summer blockbusters are going so far. I know that technically we're still only at the start of the summer season with movies, but it is still going very bad. Like, the month of May has been very disappointing financially, especially when you have a whole bunch of flops like The Fall Guy, If, and now we include Furiosa. The only one who's been doing okay so far is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and that's pretty much it. In fact, I'd even go further and say that so far, 2024 has been a pretty bad year for the box office. In fact, let me just go and show you with how things are going worldwide, and as you can see, it is not that impressive. So far, like, we're almost halfway into the entire year, and so far there have only been 3 movies that have been big hits so far, including Dune Part 2, Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, and Kung Fu Panda 4. And maybe Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes might be coming up, but that's pretty much it. In fact, with those 3 movies that I have mentioned, those are the only ones that have crossed over $500 million, and even the only ones who have crossed $300 million with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes that are going to be coming up. So that is honestly something that I feel like it is very concerning, and something that it reflects upon a darker reality, that it's not just those big studios that are going to be taking a massive L because their movies have been flopping. It's not just, this isn't a problem for just Warner Brothers, Sony, Disney, Universal, and Paramount, but it is also a massive problem for movie theaters. Like, they're the ones that are really, they're the ones who are taking quite an L on this one. And that if things don't get better, then those businesses are going to be in danger, and there could be a possibility that we will see a legitimate reduction in theaters unless they go and make some kind of strategy change. Like, honestly, one way that could save it, but I don't know if they have the courage to do so because of capitalism, it's with reducing the price. I mean, one of the big things that's holding people back from really wanting to go and watch movies on the big screen is because nowadays it's becoming more expensive. Like, even when I would go and watch a movie, nowadays ticket prices are on average, like, give or take $15. And that doesn't even include the price of, like, popcorn, soda, or what have you. It's just been, it's becoming more and more of an expensive experience to go and watch a movie on the big screen. And now audiences are becoming far more picky and far more selective of which movies that they want to go and actually see on the big screen, or else they'll just go and wait until it'll come out on Netflix. So that's why I want to go and bring this up, especially with what's been happening this weekend, considering that right now, a lot of people are even saying that this is actually not just one of, but it's been the worst Memorial Day weekend for the box office in about 30 years. Last time that it has made those kinds of numbers was back in 1995, where the biggest hit that they had at the time was the Casper movie. And of course, that doesn't count for inflation. So this is honestly pretty concerning to see what is happening right now, where, like, last year it was mainly a Disney problem, but now it seems to be like everyone's problem, where now everybody has their own massive flops in the levels of what Disney had last year with, now we've been seeing, like, Universal, Paramount, and Sony. So who knows? Like, a lot of people are hoping that maybe with Inside Out 2, they could spark back some magic and bring back some intrigue for people to go and come and watch, like, movies on the big screen. But I don't know, man. It's just, it's a concerning sight, to say the least. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall. And I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the box office results of both Furiosa and the Garfield movie? Let me know what you all think, folks. Let's see what we have here. I just got back from seeing the Garfield movie. Surprisingly enough, I didn't like that. I gave it a 4 out of 10. I wish I liked it, but I didn't. Anyways, it's weird that Furiosa is making less money than the Garfield movie, even though it's getting some praise from so many people. It could be because of poor marketing or something, but either way, I feel bad for Furiosa being beat out by the Lazy Orange Cat. I will say, honestly, the only thing that could truly save Furiosa right now is if it can pull off an Elemental. Like, it might not be likely, but if it can able to pull off what that Pixar movie did and just slowly but surely be saved by positive word of mouth, and that the decline that it would face throughout the summer is just going to be, like, very small, like just bit by bit, to the point where maybe it can make it can make its budget back. I don't know. Like, that's the only way, but the chances of that are pretty much slim to none. So, I don't know. Anyways, I haven't gotten around to seeing Furiosa yet, so I can't say my 2 cents on that. But trust me, I will see it soon. But I'm surprised the Garfield movie is doing all right numbers on account of the reviews. However, the box office returns here are a bit concerning, even if it's a little funny how right now it's a battle of the Chris's. Like, theaters are going, do you want to see Chris Hemsworth as a warlord or Chris Pratt as a cat? And check out the summer program. I hear Chris Pine is an evil king. Yes. But I did hear apparently Chris Pine was recently a pool boy, and oh boy, that really did not go well. Honestly, it's like he would wish for the results of Wish to be back instead of his directorial debut on that. Okay, let's see what else we got here. I don't care why Furiosa is flopping. I just care that Furiosa is flopping. The more flops Warner Brothers puts out, the sooner they'll fire David Zaslav. As for Garfield, I'm glad it's going to at least make its budget back. Sony needs at least one win in a year where they're going to have bombs like Harold and the Purple Crayon and Craven. And going back to what you said about the 2024 box office, people love to laugh at Disney in 2023, but this year it seems Disney will have the last laugh. I mean, we will have to wait and see on that. I mean, it's not 100% guaranteed if they're following movies like either Inside Out 2 or Moana 2 or whatever they have in store. There's no guarantee if they will be successes. But I will say there is a little bit of an irony where people love to laugh at Disney, and debatably they still love to do so to this day. And yet, nowadays, the people that they're looking up to in the hopes to save the box office is Disney, especially when they have both Inside Out 2 and Deadpool vs. Wolverine in store. So just to go and mention that. Anyways, this is a very depressing Memorial Day weekend, especially since this is the lowest weekend since 1995 when Casper won at the time. I'm not too worried for Garfield since the budget is $60 million, so it'll make profits for Sony and Alcon. For Furiosa, this is a flop for Warner Brothers, and I feel bad for George Miller and his team. The film flopped due to Warner Brothers marketing too late, hesitant on prequels, a niche franchise for Mad Max, and of course, financial situations as people prefer watching at home. This sucks. Yeah, I don't blame you there. Let's see what other comments that we have. It really sucks that both Furiosa and Garfield aren't doing the slightest on their debuts, despite the latter being a smash hit internationally. And funny enough, I'm planning to see Furiosa with my friends to celebrate my birthday this Friday. Oh, happy birthday, dude. And I saw the score for the Garfield movie on Rotten Tomatoes, a very big ouch, man, and not gonna lie, I shouldn't be too surprised given that the Mario movie and the FNAF movie also had rotten scores. I guess it's how it goes. That is a fair argument there. Let's see, what else? What are the comments? I love movie theaters. I do not want them to go extinct. I feel like they should reduce the ticket prices and maybe re-release classic movies in theaters, like in order to honor the anniversaries, like Shrek 2. Well, I mean, nowadays that seems to be a bit more and more of a thing, especially when, like, not just with Shrek 2 that we have seen, but also earlier in the year, we have seen Disney actually release those Pixar movies from the pandemic on the big screen. And so far, they have gotten the biggest re-release success this year with Star Wars Episode 1, releasing that film for the 25th anniversary. And that actually managed to work out pretty well, and even making it among the top 5 at the box office during this month. So that is worth mentioning. So that you know, it's a you know, like, at least in terms of re-releases, that does seem to be more and more of a thing. Let's see, any other comments here? Let's see. I would go and see the Garfield movie in cinemas, but unfortunately, 2 friends of mine had ended up in a vehicle accident, and even though they're safe and alive, our chances of seeing this, if not any other movie, including A Quiet Place Day 1, are temporarily limited. Hopefully, they'll get a replacement vehicle soon, and we'll be able to go see the movies again. By the way, Matt, I loved your review. Nice touch, as the cat himself would say. Hey, thank you so much, and I am hoping for the best for your friends. I mean, I understand going into an accident, it absolutely sucks. So I wish them the best of luck, and hopefully, I know they're technically fine, but hopefully they can have a good mental recovery as well, because I can understand something like that is a very stressful experience. All right, I'll read one more comment, and then we're going to go on to our first break. Let's see, I'll go here. The whole thing with the box office is turning out to be really bad. Anyways, Furiosa being so low is honestly sad. It seems to be getting good reviews, but with the others, yeah, critics are being savage. I hope things will change, but we'll have to wait and see. Exactly. All right, so we're going to go on to our first break, and when we do return, this is going to be the most emotional part, to say the least, of this episode. And one that I gotta say is the celebrity death that, personally, it really hurt. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, I gotta say, this one, like, I didn't expect a celebrity death would really impact me so much, or at least, like, really impact me emotionally. Like, the last time that I really felt a big one was Robin Williams about a decade ago. But this one, though, I will say, you guys know I'm a lifelong Disney fan, and this one, oh boy, this is heavy. I mean, it technically would be expected, but, you know, hearing that this legendary name is no longer with us, I mean, there is undeniably some sadness. And what I am talking about, of course, is regarding the passing of Richard Sherman. Yes, Richard Sherman, who is one of the 2 of the legendary Sherman brothers, has passed away this weekend. Reading directly from my source here on the Walt Disney Company's website, it is actually stated right over here: Disney legend Richard M. Sherman, half of the Academy Award-winning songwriting team of the Sherman Brothers, with his late brother, Disney legend Robert B. Sherman, passed away on Saturday, May 25th. Excuse me. Anyways, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Beverly Hills due to age-related illness. He was 95 years old. One of the most prolific composer-lyricists in the history of family entertainment and a key member of Walt Disney's inner circle of creative talents, Richard garnered 9 Academy Award nominations, won 3 Grammy Awards, and received 24 gold and platinum albums over the course of his 65-year career. His career ran the gambit from the early days of rock and roll and television to Broadway and Hollywood. Now, to give you all a little bit of a quick summary of who Richard Williams is, he and his brother, Robert, they have been considered 2 of the greatest songwriters in Disney's history, or even in family entertainment history. They started out back in the late 1950s, where they would go and contribute to some early rock and roll songs. In fact, their first major hit is a song called You're 16. But then, from their success with music, they gathered the attention of Disney, where Walt Disney decided to come in and hire them in order to go and write songs for many of their projects, like their TV shows and movies and stuff like that. So, starting from the 1960s, the first ever song that they wrote was for a made-for-TV movie that would star Annette Funicello. And then the first time that they would work on a movie was actually the one song from The Absent-Minded Professor. And then they would go on and continue even more work and like start to have their works be featured in other different projects from Disney, including their first animated movie that they've worked on, which was The Sword and the Stone in 1963. But what is debatably their peak year, or not necessarily peak, their biggest year that they have ever worked on was in 1964. Or at least 1964 was the year when many of their biggest and most beloved songs were released, especially the movie that is said to be the ones featuring their magnum opus songs, Mary Poppins, where they would go and write songs such as A Spoonful of Sugar, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, Jolly Holiday, Chim Chim Cheree, and of course, Feed the Birds, which the latter is said to be one of Walt Disney's favorite songs. In fact, there is actually a famous story in which they say every Friday afternoon, every week, and some even say daily, Walt Disney would bring in the Sherman brothers so that they can, they bring them to his office, and they would set up the piano where they would play Feed the Birds to him. It's like Walt Disney's comfort song during the final years of his life. And then from there, they would also work on many other features, including the Jungle Book, the Aristocats, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and even during the 70s, they would also work beyond Disney, where they would also do songs for Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, for Snoopy Come Home, for Charlotte's Web. And not to mention that they have also worked on many songs, like not just for movies and shows and stuff like that, but also for theme parks as well. Whenever Disney would go and bring up a new ride, sometimes they would bring in the Sherman Brothers to go and write new songs for them. And many of them are actually considered some of the most beloved and famous Disney songs in the theme park's history, which includes It's a Small World, the Tiki 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 Room from the Enchanted Tiki Room. There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow from the Carousel of Progress. In fact, there is a famous clip featuring the Sherman Brothers and Walt Disney where they would sing the song. It's actually this little moment right over here when Walt Disney would present the Carousel of Progress on his Disneyland show. And then there's also another one a little bit later in the 1980s, which is One Little Spark from Journey into Imagination. And even in this article here, you will see many other, they will go and bring up many other examples. Like over here, like in terms of the works that they have done for Disney throughout the 1960s, there is The Horse Masters, which is that made-for-TV movie with Annette Funicello. They also mentioned The Absent-Minded Professor, The Parent Trap, Summer Magic, The Sword and the Stone, Mary Poppins, That Darn Cat, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, the Jungle Book, The Happiest Millionaire, The Aristocats, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and many more. And then there are several others that they would go and do. And they even mentioned, like, the ones outside of Disney. Like, thank you for the little cheers band. Anyways, like, you got Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Snoopy Come Home, Charlotte's Web, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, and The Slipper and the Rose. And even afterwards, now, it is true that in terms of the relationship between the brothers, it has been pretty complex. But eventually there was one instance where later, in the late 1990s and early 2000s, they did get back together where they did actually wrote the songs for the Tigger movie. And even over time, when they would receive Lifetime Achievement Awards and like Medal of Honors and stuff like that for their work that they would do in many of these movies, shows, and rides, eventually it did occur when Robert Sherman passed away back in 2012. But that did not break the spirit of Richard Sherman, where he would actually continue to create songs, like even during the 2000s, the 2010s, and even the 2020s. Like they even said here that Richard Sherman was the one who wrote the song "Make Way for Tomorrow Today" for Iron Man 2. And then there was also he also updated the lyrics for "I Want to Be Like You" for the 2016 remake of The Jungle Book. And then he would also not only write new songs, but also make an appearance in the 2018 movie Christopher Robin. Oh, excuse me, folks. And then there was even as recent as this year where he would go and actually create new songs. Andreas Deja has his own animated short called Mushka, in which Richard Sherman was brought on board to write a new song for it called Mushka's Lullaby. And then, of course, there was his final piece of music that he actually did. And instead of telling you, allow me to go and show you, because you can easily find on YouTube, it is actually this moment right here. Whoops, it would be important to put up the sound of that, wouldn't it?
Gotta go. But thanks. On with the show.
Yes, so for those of you who don't know, just to give you quick context, that was from Once Upon a Studio, and that was Richard Sherman who actually played that little piano riff of Feed the Birds. In fact, they when they were making Once Upon a Studio, they actually used the same piano that Richard Sherman would play for Walt Disney in order to do that little piece of music. And of course, there are a couple of quotes that I would like to read here directly from the Walt Disney Company website, just to read some like nice little words here. One of which is from Pete Docter, the Chief Creative Officer at Pixar Animation Studios, in which it says, "You don't get songs like A Spoonful of Sugar without a genuine love of life, which Richard passed on to everyone lucky enough to be around him. Even in his 90s, he had more energy and enthusiasm than anyone. I always left renewed by Richard's infectious joy of life." There was also another comment here from Leonard Maltin, the famous film historian, in which he states here, "The Sherman brothers were professional optimists who found a perfect patron in Walt Disney. Their songs had an upbeat outlook that spilled over into Richard's life, which was not without its troubles and challenges. He was especially proud that he and his brother carried on a songwriting career like their father, who encouraged them early on." So yeah, I just want to say that during the weekend, like I remember it was just like fresh off the news. I think it's like a few minutes after Disney made an official post specifically about what happened over here. Like, this was one of those rare moments that I saw a celebrity death and like I actually said out loud like, no, you know, like it honestly sucks. But I mean, sure, some people could argue that it would be expected, especially with the fact that, well, I mean, Richard Sherman was not young for sure. Like, to be fair, he did live a full life, and going out at 95 years old, almost 96, like, hey, that is very solid right there. And I think it is safe to say that, like, he lived life to the fullest. But still, though, getting a legend like Richard Sherman no longer being with us, there is a part of it that it is a bit crushing. And even if you have never met the guy, the works that he has done has left a massive impact on not just many people, but across many generations. Like, you go and talk to someone, like any person, like you ask them their list of favorite Disney songs, and there is a very strong chance that they're going to include one that will be from the Sherman brothers or from Richard Sherman. And from there, just looking back at many of the works that he has done and many of the songs, like he really did help define what Disney means musically, like putting their imprint. Like, yeah, Disney has done a lot of different musicals in the past, ranging from Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and all that kind of stuff. But then when the Sherman brothers came in, and with Richard Sherman's inclusion into the Disney songs, like with Mary Poppins or with It's a Small World, there is this extra flavor that went on to go and define what is a Disney song, that where it would include that sense of optimism, that sense of fun, that sense of whimsy. That, you know, it's the kind of music that it would really define what is Disney. And even at that, like, sometimes it doesn't have to be Disney, because you could still, like, that energy and that sense of optimism that he would bring into those songs, he would also go and include it onto stuff such as Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and as well as Charlotte's Web, where, sure, like, they're not Disney movies for sure, but there is that feeling that it's like a Disney movie, and genuinely feels so because of the fact that they included the Sherman brothers. And even for me, like I said before, I grew up with Disney. I am a lifelong Disney fan, and I'll admit, even like in a darker period like right now, where Disney is making a lot of stupid decisions and making movies that have been weaker than what they used to do, I still am a fan. And in the case of Richard Sherman, like, I look back and there have been a lot of songs that I personally really enjoyed coming from Richard Sherman. You know, if I would go and list down some of my personal favorites, I mean, well, number one, Feed the Birds, because I'll admit that when I heard he passed away, I did listen to Feed the Birds, like, kind of like in remembrance to Richard Sherman, and I did shed a little bit of a tear. So yeah, definitely would count Feed the Birds on that. But then there's also I Want to Be Like You, that I also really enjoy. And of course, as a Figment fan, I do like One Little Spark. I mean, that song is definitely a lot of fun and really does capture that sense of, like, imagination, adventure, and of course that signature optimism, like, to go forth with a lot of whimsy and a lot of fun. Like, even to this day, I still remember I know the lyrics by heart, actually. You know, one little spark of inspiration is at the heart of all creation, right at the start of everything that's new. One little spark lights up for you. Imagination, imagination. A dream can be a dream come true with just that spark in me and you. Hey, it's been a while since I've done the Figment voice. I feel like, you know, if I'm going to sing One Little Spark, might as well do it with that. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many songs that, like, even if I didn't know it, they have personally touched me. And for me, I would say, yeah, so far, this has been the biggest celebrity death that has impacted me in not just this year, but in such a long time. And I know many people, like, and I saw before, like, getting into the story, many people have brought up many other figures that have recently passed away. I was surprised to hear the Doge Dog is no longer with us. But then you also have the Master of B movies, Roger Corman, and even like the ones that I previously talked about a while back, like from this year, like you got Akira Toriyama, which so far for many people, that's a major death. And even Mark Gustafson, the director of, or one of the directors of Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. But I will say, with Richard Sherman, though, this one for me has to be the biggest, especially when this guy, I would argue and say that in terms of like Disney figures, this guy is a legend among legends. The fact that for over half a century that he would go and contribute to many of the most beloved Disney moments and Disney songs out there, where the impact that he has left can legitimately be comparable to Walt Disney. It's just, it's just really sad, because there is that sense that one piece of classic Disney, a very significant piece of classic Disney, is sadly no longer with us. That is sadly, he is gone. But there is a side to it that we could see. There's a bit of positivity. There is a little bit of a happy ending to this, because no matter where Richard Williams, sorry, no matter if he's already up there, he's still animating whatever freaking project. He's probably still trying to finish up his version of The Thief of the Cobbler. No, but I mean, with Richard Sherman, he's up there reunited with his brother on the piano and probably asking, anything you would like me to play, Walt? And I can imagine the only response Walt would have, you know what I want to hear. So yeah. So this is just to go and honor Richard Sherman. I am absolutely going to miss the guy. And honestly, I do regret not ever meeting him. I never had an opportunity, but like, I wish I would have. But man, his songs are going to forever live on, and they will define what is a Disney song. So with that said, I would like to now go into the chat wall. And now I would like to go and ask you all. And on top of that, not only asking about your thoughts and how Richard Williams, I don't know why I keep saying Richard Williams, how Richard Sherman impacted you, but also, what is your favorite song from the Sherman Brothers or Richard Sherman? I would love to know what you think. Let's see now. Oh, Matt, that was beautiful. I remember listening and singing the songs from Mary Poppins, Jungle Book, and the Aristocats. I didn't appreciate Feed the Birds when I was a kid, but I understand it more as an adult and why it's beautiful. Honestly, I think we can all take solace that he's finally with his family. 12 years is a long time to be without your siblings. I'm glad he kept working, and I hope he did one of his own choices. I feel like the next MP death is Dick Van Dyke. Yeah, honestly, that's another one where I don't think I'm ready to see him go, man. Oh boy, one at a time, folks. We just lost Richard Sherman, so I mean, let's just have a moment to like let that sink in before we can think about who else is gonna go. Let's see now. There is no better way to describe Richard Sherman's music than timeless. His iconic ditties like Feed the Birds, I Want to Be Like You, or even There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow have been with Disney fans for decades. And right now, looking back, this is the one time I don't mind having It's a Small World stuck in my head. And with that, farewell, Richard Sherman. I guess he and Walt are having those Friday afternoon sing-along sessions once more. Yeah, and honestly, maybe this is a hot take, but honestly, I don't mind the It's a Small World song. I actually do enjoy it. And I mean, yeah, it's something that feels like it would keep repeating again and again. But like I've mentioned this before, I'm one of those people that actually do like It's a Small World. I'm not creeped out. I'm not creeped out by the attraction. I actually do have fun when I sit, when I get on that boat and see all the kids from all around the world singing that song. If I want to go on a ride where I would feel scared, I would feel uncomfortable, and I don't feel safe, then I would just go to the Haunted Mansion. All right, but anyways, Richard Sherman, along with his brother Robert, of course, both lived a phenomenal life and had an amazing career as one of the best songwriters out there. I was saddened to hear the news about Richard's passing. I just rewatched Once Upon a Studio days ago, and also rewatched the behind-the-scenes video of Richard playing the piano for the short with my friends and directors of the short. That put me in the best mood every time I'm down. Richard will absolutely be missed, and everyone at Disney Animation. Yeah, definitely true right there. I'm saddened to see Richard Sherman pass away at the age of 95, same age as when Stan Lee did. He, alongside his brother, has made some iconic songs in Disney's history, including Mary Poppins, The Jungle Book, and Winnie the Pooh. As far as non-Disney films go, only Charlotte's Web I remember the most when I saw it as a kid, which I didn't know until years later. He definitely made some of the greatest songs that many generations, including myself, would listen to. Hope he reunites with his brother. All right, let's see now. I couldn't be any more devastated. I even cried, but I'm glad to know he's finally at peace. Just after hearing his last interview, I knew he wasn't going to live very long. In fact, he must have been miserable to never sing anymore. But what the brothers' masterpiece for me is their works on Winnie the Pooh. Yes, Mary Poppins and Jungle Book have more love, but no other movie could ever top that without their music. He's not living a great day tomorrow. He's now living a great day tomorrow. Tell Robert we'll miss you both. Okay. Step in Time is one of my favorite songs from the Sherman Brothers. The others being I Want to Be Like You and The Ugly Bug Ball. Rest in peace, Richard Sherman. Sorry, had to repeat this, Miss Cube. It's alright, dude. Anyways, what other comments would there be just to go and read? Did I do? Oh, okay. I didn't read this one. The Sherman Brothers gave us so many wonderful songs, not just for Disney, but several movies for other studios. After Robert Sherman died, I knew Richard Sherman wasn't long for this earth. Now that they're both gone, thank you, Omid, for the little subscription there and being the new fish. Anyways, let's see, where was I? Now that they're both gone, I feel like part of Disney's soul is gone. If it wasn't for the foundation they built, we wouldn't have had Disney songs like Part of Your World, Circle of Life, or Star Spangled Man with a Plan. So thank you, the Sherman Brothers. Your work will never be forgotten. I'd never heard of a Star Spangled Man with a Plan, honestly. Which one is that from? Maybe I don't know. Is that High School Musical, or I don't know. I know, like I might sound stupid right now, but just Captain America. Okay, now I get what you mean. That makes sense. Thank you, folks. Okay, let's see. I think I'll read 2 more comments and then I'll move on to the next break. Let's see now. This really broke my heart. The Sherman Brothers were very talented when it comes to their songs they wrote. The ones that really had my day going were their famous songs from Mary Poppins. I remember when I was a baby, my mom would always put on Mary Poppins for me, and I would stay glued to the screen, hearing the songs and enjoying the movie. I feel heavy that Richard Sherman had passed away, but I'm glad that he's reunited with his brother and Walt himself in heaven. All right, let's see. One more comment now. All right, I'll go with this one, actually. I am going to miss Richard Sherman. He wrote the songs from my favorite movies like Mary Poppins, The Sword and the Stone, The Jungle Book, Charlotte's Web, Aristocats, and The Tigger Movie. Maybe he rests in peace and he can finally reunite with his brother Robert and Walt Disney in heaven. There you go. So, yeah, I guess safe to say that with Richard Sherman, he has definitely impacted millions of lives, again, across many different generations. And hopefully that, like you all said, hopefully he will be at peace with his and back with his brother and with Walt. All right, so to prevent me from being in the verge of tears, we're going to go and take our next break. And when we do return, we do have another Disney story that we will talk about, but this one, I'm going to be a little bit more critical because what they just pulled off there, I'll admit, yeah, they have their reasons, but it still ain't cool, man. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you wiped your face from the tears you had in the last story, but now we're going to be a little bit more critical towards Disney. In fact, being critical towards Disney kind of got a bit of a resurgence this past week, especially with Jenny Nicholson's 4-hour YouTube video about the now defunct and infamous Star Wars Galactic Cruiser Hotel. So from there, it pretty much reignited the trend of dunking on Disney, especially for their massive failures, including that one, which, honestly, yeah, Disney deserved a bit of that L on that one, especially with the way that it was just way too freaking expensive. But that's not what we are here to talk about. Now, what we will be discussing here, it's not necessarily as fun to go and talk about, but it is worth discussing, and it is one that, yeah, it doesn't really shed Disney on a pretty positive light. So let us go and discuss about the Pixar layoffs. Yes, I know, technically, there have already been some layoffs at Pixar a while back where they decided to let go about 75 employees. Well, this one, unfortunately, is actually much worse. What happened was that Pixar ended up losing a total of 175 of their employees. Or it's been said that technically it would be around 14% of the workforce that is at Pixar. Now, you might be wondering, why is it that Pixar is firing more people? Why is it that Disney is cutting off more jobs at Pixar after that they have already done that first round? Well, the answer is a little bit more complex than you may think, because the big thing is that Disney is starting to realize a big problem that many people have already called them out on, and that is the fact that in recent years, Disney has been valuing quantity over quality, especially because of Disney Plus, where Disney had the mentality that they want to try to go and push out as much content as possible onto Disney Plus. Or I shouldn't say content, but I mean like projects like movies, TV shows, shorts, like what have you, like just produce them again and again and just push them out onto Disney Plus. And they have been demanding on all of their divisions to go and do so. Not just Pixar to go and push more content on Disney Plus, but also Marvel, Lucasfilm, 20th Century, Disney Animation, and Walt Disney Pictures. And so far, that actually bit them in the butt. It caused Disney to go and bite off more than they could chew, where they ended up losing a significant amount of money. Like, not only did this affected them financially, where, yeah, now the profits have been going like really down, but also it started to go and affect them creatively, where it's becoming more difficult for Disney projects to actually be as acclaimed as they once were, because of the fact that the attention needed for those projects have started to scatter around, divided onto several of these different projects. So from there, Disney decided that they're going to go and own up to their mistake, and they want to try to back away from making all of these different projects, that instead of really focusing on making as much projects for Disney Plus, instead what they want to do is that they're just going to go and focus on the quality. Only a few bits at a time that they would release, but they want to make sure that the stuff they do put out would actually be amazing. Now that is good, but it does come with a bit of the cost with cutting down all these employees. But there is a reason, by the way, why those employees are cut, and that is mainly because when it comes to Pixar, they want to focus less on making random content on Disney Plus, or I keep saying content, and I know that it is bad to call those things content. I do apologize for that. For these projects on Disney Plus. So let me just go and backtrack myself on what I want to say. But the reason why these people are laid off is mainly because those people they worked on projects that were supposed to be for Disney Plus, and not just feature films, but also originally Pixar had a push of wanting to make TV shows. They wanted to do what DreamWorks Animation or Sony Animation is currently doing, where they don't just offer movies to be released in theaters, but also that they would go and create films and TV shows that would be released on streaming, specifically for Disney Plus in this case. But now Pixar has ultimately decided that they're not going to go and do that, and they're just going to focus back on doing exclusively exclusively movies to be released in theaters, and that whatever projects that they want to do for Disney Plus, they're just going to go and drop it, with the exception of the series Win or Lose. They're going to go and finish that, and they're still planning on releasing it on Disney Plus. But unfortunately, they got to go and fire those 175 people because, well, their services are no longer needed. Now, there is a little bit of a silver lining technically, because the thing is with with these layoffs is that the people at Pixar, they knew this was coming. they were very well aware that Disney was eventually planning to go and let go of hundreds of employees at Pixar, that they no longer need them, that they're going to stop all the plans of making those Disney Plus shows and shorts and what have you, and that they're just going to focus back on just making theatrically released feature films. They knew about it, but the rumor stated before that it was going to be around 20% that they would go and let go. I did some calculations, and that would have been around 260 people that they considered to go and lay off. But that's not actually the case, and the number is slightly less at 175. So debatably, some people could say that it would have been much worse. And I've heard some words, I don't know if this is actually true or not, but Disney is not just going to completely let go and just leave these animators abandoned. It has been said that they will try to go and move them to a different division, or they will move them to a different place where they would go and still maintain a job, that they would maybe move them to Marvel, to Lucasfilm, to Disney Animation, or anything like that. I don't know if that is actually true or not. I can't really confirm it. But yeah, still though, I just want to go and, just mention here that it still sucks the fact that 175 employees had to be let go in all this. And honestly, this isn't just a Disney problem here. This isn't just a factor of how bad things are going with Disney. This also reflects upon a serious problem with the capitalist system. And I know, like, I am sounding a bit anarchist like that, but it is true, because this isn't just Disney doing that thing. Like, we have seen this with many other companies, not just in the entertainment industry, but just in the workforce in general. The big problem of the fact that whenever executives would go and make stupid decisions that would go and actually cost them money, the ones who would get the short end of the stick, or the ones who would most likely face consequences, is actually the employees. So from there, that's why they would go. So that's why, like, whenever these things would go and happen, then the executives would go and decide, okay, we're just going to cut off the jobs here and here and here so that we can go and save some profits. And in that regards, I feel like that really does suck. And it especially sucks for those employees, because the thing is that these people who worked at Pixar, they literally did nothing wrong. You know, they're just there to take the bullet for the executives, because you know very damn well that none of the heads at either Pixar or especially Disney with Bob Iger, they're not going to face consequences with it. You know, they're not going to go and cut off their pay, you know, to like take some of the loss from what they have endured. No, they're going to go after their employees in order to go and do so. And that's why it is imperative, especially for the studios at Disney, like Disney Animation and Pixar, that they need to go and emphasize to be unionized. You know, not just for the animators to be unionized, because I know that the animators themselves who do work at Disney Animation and Pixar, they are part of the Animation Guild, but I mean for the studios themselves to be recognized by the Animation Guild so that they also go and follow the rules of the union so that they don't plan to go and really screw those people over. Now, I know that is a massive subject, and that's like a completely different topic altogether to go and actually discuss. But again, this is just one small example that we have seen so far of how bad, you know, like not just with Disney, but also with the entertainment field, with how they would go and respond to bad decisions like this. Whenever that they have to go and take an L, well, the executives don't want to go and take an L. They leave that to their workers, especially for the people at Pixar. Just because Disney decided to say, you know what, maybe making maybe having Pixar to make TV shows, maybe that's not a good idea. Let's go and remove that altogether and screw over the employees, you know, screw over those artists and animators. Like, that, I gotta say, is not cool right there. And I feel like that is something that needs to be called out. Not just Disney, but again, like all these people doing it. Like we have seen, like this isn't the first time that we have seen this kind of story actually develop. We've seen this all the time with many different studios. I know Warner Brothers has done this. I know Universal has done this. I know Sony has done this. I know Paramount has done this. Like everyone is guilty on doing this kind of thing. And honestly, like really what Disney has done wrong here is follow a very flawed capitalist system. It's just the way things unfortunately work. And I mean, yeah, like we could go and pin the blame on Disney and go after them, but honestly, this is something that like we need to go and scold all studios from doing in general. Like this isn't just Disney, but it's also Hollywood for not really protecting the rights of the animators. So that is why this is honestly why I just want to go and put in my piece. And I feel like it is important to have this kind of discussion where we are seeing animators just being discarded like paper, and again, it's not just with Pixar, but it's like across the industry in general. We have been more and more aware of how animators have been treating, rather it be going through grueling work environments or the way that their jobs are not being as valued to executives as much as they debatably should. And that is definitely the case that we do see right over here. So overall, I feel like, I just want to go and say, I want to wish the animators and the people who worked at Pixar, like those who did get fired or who got laid off, I wish them the best of luck and that very soon they will find a new job so that they could get themselves back on their feet and that they could still maintain an income when working on wherever they would go and work and to go and continue their passion. So I just want to go and actually put in my piece on that. All right, so with that said, I'd like to go into the chat wall, and now I would like to go and ask you all, what do you all think about the layoffs that Pixar has done, or the additional layoffs that Pixar did? Let me know what you all think on this. All right, let's see now. This sucks to see Disney has to let go so many employees from Pixar for the purpose of saving money and budget cuts as well. They don't deserve to be let go, but I hope for the other employees from Pixar to find other jobs after all this. Also, you are aware that Disney is no longer making physical home media in the US and Canada, as they signed a deal with Sony to let them distribute physical home media for Disney. If so, any thoughts? Well, I mean, in a way, like, I would disagree on you on saying that, oh, Disney is giving up on home media in general. And I mean, the collaboration with Disney and Sony, that's not the first time that we are seeing something like this. I mean, we've also, like, technically with Warner Brothers and Universal, they're also collaborating on releasing physical media. I feel like that, like, for physical, for DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff like that, I feel like that's actually a good thing that Disney is doing that deal with Sony Pictures so that there can still be more physical media of Disney movies, Marvel, Star Wars, and so on and so forth. At least they're not giving up on it, Like, Disney would have had the decision to just completely let that go and, like, just say they're giving up on physical media in general and just stick to streaming like Disney Plus. But at least that is something. So I just want to go and put out my comments on that. Anyways, this really is unfortunate. The fact that they would want to lay off employees so that they could cut back on projects is just insulting. I get they want to provide better projects, but this is not the way to do it. And I honestly feel like it's stuff like this, and as to why Bob Iger is becoming less liked as a CEO, and how he's overstayed his welcome at Disney, and that they would be better off without him. Yeah, honestly, it's just... this whole thing, like, it is true, like, with how Bob Iger is right now, yeah, he is not like how he has been seen throughout the 2010s. And I mean, like, I get it. Like, when Disney was under Bob Chapek, it was in very bad condition. Like, he left Disney as a mess, but Bob Iger is not doing a good job in terms of cleaning that mess up. All right, let's see what we have here. What other comments? It's unfortunate that Pixar employees had to pay the price of a stupidity that Bob Chapek exasperated that resulted in unintentional excess of employees. I certainly hope that those employees can find new jobs elsewhere, and no, I am not going to boycott Inside Out 2 over this, because if I were to do that, I would have boycotted all anime films. In fact, the fact that Pixar is one of the least worst offenders when it comes to layoffs is saying quite a lot. Exactly. Like, I know the Disney hate is still very strong and that we want to point the fingers on that. But don't forget, like, all the other studios are very much guilty. We know DreamWorks has done this. We know Sony Animation has done this. We know Illumination has done this. We know Paramount has done this. Like, all these other studios, they ain't no different than what we have seen with Pixar right over here. So just saying. And yeah, like, boycotting Inside Out 2 for something like this, like, that's not going to be effective whatsoever. And by the time the movie would come out, most people would already forget about that anyways, and wouldn't see much of, like, a massive cause that it feels like it's worth caring about at that time. So yeah, honestly, it's not, yeah, it ain't going to do much if you want to go and boycott Inside Out 2. Let's see now. Those Pixar layoffs did put me in a really bad mood last week. I honestly do wish everyone that were laid off by Disney the best on looking for their next big gig. I have no idea why Disney couldn't keep them for future feature films. These layoffs are an absolute dick move by Disney. You folks better be supporting Inside Out 2 this summer. Thankfully, Elemental gave me some hope after all, thanks to good word of mouth. Also, I'm surprised that Disney Animation isn't affected by that, since they still have, and the comment just, also, I'm surprised that Disney Animation isn't affected by this. Yeah, honestly, it's pretty surprising that, like, Disney Animation is still fine, that we don't see employees suddenly being let go, especially after the financial losses that they had on Strange World and Wish. Like, honestly, I do consider that as a bit of a win. At least the animators are still keeping their jobs. That is fine. At least they could go stay in there. They could keep working and, you know, like, go into production on the next feature films that they may have. So at least that is a positive sign right over there. That's a little bit of a relief. So hopefully they will not be affected by this, and hopefully we won't be hearing about any crazy layoffs that would happen at Disney Animation. So, you know, let's go and, like, let's go and be thankful that it ain't happening there, or at least yet. Let's see, what other comments do we have here? Anyone that, as depressing as this is, only laying off 14% of Pixar's workforce isn't nearly as bad as it could have been. They could have shuttered Pixar entirely the same way they closed Blue Sky, but they decided to thin out the workforce so the studio could work on quality over quantity. As much as I would have loved to see an Incredibles Disney Plus series, I'm glad Pixar is focusing on movies, at least for the time being. I hope Disney follows through on their promise to reassessing their employees. Yeah, I mean, well, the thing with Pixar is that it is still a very valuable property right over there. Like, they can't just completely shut down Pixar unless their films would be flopping again and again and again. There is still massive value in Pixar, and even to this day, they still rank in a lot of money. Like we saw last year, Elemental actually did turn out to be profitable, and there is a lot of hype with Inside Out 2, where there might be a strong chance that it could be Disney's first major animated hit that they've had in a long time, even more than what we have seen with Elemental. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But yeah, I think it's safe to say that when it comes to Pixar, and even to a certain extent with Disney Animation, they ain't going away anytime soon. All right, I'll read one more comment and then we're going to jump on to the next story. Let's see here. And you know what's the devastating part? Pixar doing shows could have been the unique potential of breaking the curse of 3D shows, sacrificing animation complexity and quality in order to uphold the 6 days to air and 1 season a year status quo. And not to mention, I'm thinking of being an indie 3D artist and animator mainly due to the fear of the art from I love computer animation could be one way or another part of capitalist whistle, and it saddens me that others look at computer artists. Yeah, well, honestly, Like, I know in theory that sounds amazing. Like, Pixar quality TV shows. That is incredible. But when you think about the practicality that would require in order to do that, that is a little bit much. It's like the risk is debatably way too high in order to go and put out a series that would have that kind of massive caliber. I mean, Disney has already found a good formula with Monsters at Work. I mean, like, the quality of that may not be on par with the Pixar films that we would get, but it still does the job pretty well. So, honestly, I do get what you mean where making Pixar shows would be epic, but in order to make that happen, I don't know, maybe it's not the right time for Disney to go and actually do that, if you get what I mean. All right, so we're going to go on to our next break, and when we do return, we're going to go from something that is frustrating from Disney to something from Disney that I gotta say is just downright weird. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, I know that when it comes to Disney, when they would go and announce a brand new project, you never know what they're going to come out with. And some of the ideas that they would bring up, like, some can be pretty cool. And then there are some that already sound like a pretty bad failure. Like, on one hand, recently we have heard about Moana 2 that's going to be coming out this year. And that sounds like it could have a lot of great potential. And I mean, seeing Moana back on the big screen with a new adventure? Hell yeah, why not? But then, at the same time, there is also the bad ones that we would go and hear. That Disney would go and announce more new movies that let's just say gathered a lot of pretty negative reactions. Rather it be even more Disney live action remakes, or we would hear more movies based on their theme parks. It's like, are you sure you can't think of something else? But then there's this one though, and there are only three words that I could think of when hearing about this news. What the fridge? Apparently, Disney wants to make a Club 33 movie. Yes, folks, Disney wants to go and make another movie that is not another live-action remake. It's not one of their movies based on their theme park rides, but this is a movie based on their exclusive dining club. Yeah, apparently it's a movie based on a dining club. And they've already got a whole team prepared for it and even an idea of what this is going to be. In terms of a writer, they already got Darren Lemke, who is also said to be the writer of the Goosebumps movie with Jack Black and Shazam, and even a company already attached to it called 21 Laps, which is the banner from Dan Levine, Dan Cohen, and the director of Deadpool and Wolverine, Sean Levy. So they're going to be a part of this as the producers. And in terms of what this is going to be about, it is stated here, reading from my source on The Hollywood Reporter, it states, for Club 33, the story centers on a young aspiring detective who receives a mysterious invite to the highly secretive Club 33. In this case, it's a magical and exclusive dining club whose members are the greatest and most iconic figures from across history. When a murder is committed on the premise, the patrons look to the young detective to solve it. And they even state that apparently is going to be a bit of a combo of Clue and the Night at the Museum movies, in which Sean Levy is the director of those films. Like, he knows the theming and he knows how those Night at the Museum movies go, so he'll also try to apply a little bit to that to this Club 33 movie. But some of you may be wondering, though, what is Club 33? I know some of you are not necessarily major Disney fans or often go to the theme park, so what is that? Well, the thing with Club 33 is that it is meant to be this exclusive dining club meant for, like, the elite of the elite. In fact, let me just go back into my source on The Hollywood Reporter. And it is actually stated, I know there is one little area. Yeah, okay, right over here, in which it states, hold on a sec, there we go. It states here, Club 33 first opened in 1967 and is located near the Pirates of the Caribbean theme park attraction. It was a dining area where Disney hosted celebrities, dignitaries, and friends, and for the longest time, it was the only place at the parks that served alcohol. Over time, word quietly got out about the place, and it morphed into an elite stealth club that nevertheless operated in the open. The club now has outposts in Walt Disney World in Florida, as well as Tokyo Disneyland and Shanghai Disneyland. So basically, it's Club 33 is said to be like a very exclusive restaurant for the elite of the elite. If you're able to go and actually afford a membership, then you could go in and have the highest end dining experience that you will ever find in any of the Disney parks. And it's not just in the one area at New Orleans Square in Disneyland. Like they mentioned, there's a Club 33 area that you'll find at Disney World. I believe you can find that in Disney Hollywood Studios. There's also one in Shanghai Disneyland and in Tokyo Disneyland. And apparently, that is enough to go and make a movie out of. So, honestly, when I first heard of that, honestly, my thoughts are just, what? Because you probably remember when I talked about the Space Mountain movie, when Disney announced that they hired some new writers to go and work on a feature film that would be based on Space Mountain. And I've expressed a bit of tiredness that honestly, like, it's, I'm starting to feel a bit tired of the fact that Disney would keep trying again and again and again to try to recapture the magic that they had with Pirates of the Caribbean by keep on making these movies based on their theme park rides. And every time they would try to do so, it just feels like a flop, and they don't do any favors for the rides themselves. Even recently, with what we have seen with that Jungle Cruise movie with Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt, or even that Haunted Mansion reboot from last year, like, they just didn't really work out. And yet Disney is still trying to do that, believing that they could somehow make the next Pirates of the Caribbean. For me, as a Disney fan myself, I feel like Disney should let the rides be the rides. Let them just stay as is. Let them be like, if you want to meet characters like Figment or Madame Leota or the dog with keys or whatever, the best place would be only at those attractions that you gotta go there and come face to face with them. Like, honestly, that's the mentality that I do have with them. Like, honestly, I just feel more tired about those movies, more, like, debatably more so than I am with Disney making the live action remakes. Say what you will about those live action remakes, at least they're able to go and deliver different flavors that maybe some can work and a lot of them do not. But with these, movies based on rides, it's like, yeah, they definitely feel more like an insult to the original source material, debatably more so than the live action remakes. But then, when I heard about that Club 33 movie, I'm just like, what? Like, honestly, it feels like you're going into now the most random places at the Disney parks just to go and find an idea. Like, did anybody ask for a Club 33 movie? Like, are we literally taking anything and everything from the Disney parks and try to turn that into a feature film? Like, are we going to suddenly have a sci-fi movie, or like we're going to have a sci-fi musical starring Sunny Eclipse? Or when are we going to have, or are we going to legitimately have the Enchanted Tiki Room movie? Or not even that. Like, instead of making another Pirates of the Caribbean film, why don't you make a movie based on the Blue Bayou? Hey, why don't you go and actually make a film like that? Or if you're going to make a new animated movie with Mickey Mouse, why don't you go and make the Chef Mickey's movie? Or not even that. Why don't you go and make a movie based on one of the gift shops? Make a gift shop movie. I don't know. It sounds on brand with Disney. Nah, but still though, in all seriousness, I just feel like it's so random where you're taking a dining experience, one of the dining clubs at Disney, and you're gonna try to turn that into a feature film and try to implement. Someone even mentioned, like I see on the chat, make a Disney Quest movie. Yeah, oh my god, the freaking Disney Quest movie. Let's go. Honestly, as stupid as that sounds, I would honestly be so down for a Disney Quest movie, and we'll have an introduction from the genie voiced by Dan Castellaneta, who sounds nothing like the genie and just sounds like a really enthusiastic Homer Simpson. Well, why don't we go and actually have that? Oh boy. And I do see many people actually having a lot of fun suggestions. Keep them coming, folks. That would actually be a lot of fun. But anyways, going back to what I am talking about with this, yeah, and some people even bring out another one, a test track movie. Why the fridge not? And somebody said maybe a Tsum Tsum movie. I mean, that doesn't really sound off. Disney has done a lot of shorts with the Tsum Tsums, and I mean, they've made games with the Tsum Tsums, so making a Tsum Tsum movie, Figment movie. Well, they already announced a Figment movie. I mean, technically, that does seem like it's going to be a thing. Oh God! Now you guys are just being mean. Freaking the Rocket Rods movie. Oh my god. We want a movie about that freaking disaster. It would be a remake of the challenge. It would be like the Challenger with that freaking Rocket Rods movie. Get the fridge out of there. Oh, the great movie ride, the great movie ride, the movie, and then they can make a ride based on that called the Great Movie Ride, the movie, the ride. All right, but anyways, going back to what I was talking about, with this whole Club 33 thing, honestly, I just feel like it just sounds absolutely random. And yet, I'm not really opposed to it. I mean, as weird and crazy as it sounds, often it's those kinds of concepts that could legitimately work. I mean, who says that this is going to be an absolute failure? And sometimes you can find a lot of inspirations from the most random places and it could legitimately work. I mean, keep in mind, there was a once upon a time that a lot of people have said the same thing about a movie based on Legos. And look at how the Lego movie turned out. So there is that possibility that maybe with an idea so unorthodox and just so weird, like a Club 33 movie, that maybe that could have the potential to actually work. Maybe there is some kind of idea that they could legitimately develop and actually turn into something that could actually be fun and even bring back the murder mystery genre in a way that could be this interesting Knives Out style movie. There is that chance. Honestly, I feel like with all this, with this Club 33 movie, it could go either way. I feel like either it could be absolutely fantastic, or it could just be absolutely stupid. It's hard to imagine that it would be somewhere in between, but who knows? Well, for me, I feel like out of all these things, I am opposed to stuff like making a Space Mountain movie or anything like that, but having a Club 33 movie, it's one of those that's just so out there, so weird and so dumb that maybe it could work. So this is the one that honestly, I am curious to see how the filmmakers are going to cook with this one. Because again, maybe this could actually be very much worthwhile. It could be one of Disney's biggest surprises that they had in a long time. Or maybe it is as dumb as it sounds, and we could have a spectacular disaster. So who knows? So honestly, I'm actually not opposed to this. Let's see how this goes. And maybe we'll get something great, or maybe we'll get something stupid. But either way, I would now like to go and ask the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about a Club 33 movie? Are you guys for this idea, or are you opposed to it? Let me know what you all think. And you know what? I'm actually going to bring back the poll now. I'm actually going to go and try to ask you all. and see what you would all go and say. So, what can I ask? Do you think the Club 33 movie is a good idea? Might as well go and fix that little error. So I'll just write down yes, and then I'll write down no, and I like to know what you all think. Alright, so, anyways, going back to the chat, I've never heard of Club 33 until now, and this sounds like a weird, crazy idea that I feel pessimistic. This reminds me of Sony's announcement of making an El Muerto movie, where Sony picks some random Spider-Man villain that no one has heard of until now, except Club 33 has a better chance of getting it made than El Muerto in terms of chances. This could be good or dumb, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I mean, like, right now, with the current circumstances of Sony's Spider-Man movies, and especially after Madam Web being a massive flop, and the chances of Kraven being a hit has significantly decreased, yeah, I think it's safe to say that they ain't pursuing that El Muerto movie anytime soon. Let's see, what other comments would we have here? Every time I heard Disney wanting to adapt theme park attractions into film, it can bring in mixed responses, and I can understand that a film based on a very expensive exclusive restaurant can sound weird. But a film about a club existing outside time and space and being a murder mystery actually piqued my interest to see how bizarre or how bad this film can be. So this concept can be good, if random. Exactly, and honestly, I feel like it's one of those movies, and it's one of those ideas where it can be weird, but it can actually benefit if it can double down on the weirdness. Make something that's just absolutely out there and crazy, and regardless if it's going to be good or bad, it will certainly make an impact. So, honestly, if you're going to make something like a Club 33 movie, as weird as that sounds, try to go and embrace it. In fact, take advantage of the weirdness and try to make the weirdest Disney movie that you can with this and see where that may take you. And who knows, maybe doubling down on something like that could actually be very beneficial for the film. Let's see what else we got here. If you thought the idea of a Splash Mountain movie is weird, I mean, technically it exists, it's called Song of the South. Wait until Disney announces a film based on a restaurant. What's next? Movies based on Blue Milk, Disney Store, Disney Quest, Rocket Rods? Well, technically there already is a Blue Milk movie that's called Star Wars The Last Jedi. But anyways, I think those ideas sound more appealing than a restaurant. Considering some of the people who worked on Goosebumps 2015 are working on this film, it could be either great or terrible. We'll find out more moving forward. All right. It's really, It's really weird. If it's documentary about the creation of Club 33 for Disney Plus, it would be a better idea. You are not wrong, honestly. I never thought of that, actually, but if they would make a documentary about Club 33, I would be intrigued to actually check it out. I would be interested to know, like, what is it about the history of it? And I know, like, that is something that YouTubers can go and, like, easily produce. But I mean, like, a legitimate, professionally crafted documentary. I would be very intrigued to see how they would go and pull that off. Let's see, what else? Oh, and also, we do have the results of the Club 33 movie. It looks like about 74% of you who have voted said, no, it is not a good idea, while only 26% of you have actually said yes. So, oh boy, not off to a good start for Disney's Club 33 movie. Let's see. How many times do I have to tell you, if you want to make a movie based on a theme park ride, just put Muppets in them? Because besides Pirates 1 and 2 and Country Bears, it's not bad, shut up. Oh, hot take right there. Interesting. I love it, though. Oh, well, not the movie, but I love that you're going bold with the take. There are only good things based on the Disney ride. And this and that Space Mountain movie from the writers of the great Satan himself, Wonder Park, and even that Seth Rogen Figment movie. Just put Muppets in them and let the rides be rides. Also, a Sunny Eclipse movie would be pretty dope, not gonna lie. Yeah, who knows? Maybe I actually do have a good idea suggesting that one. But then again, it's interesting how you mentioned that, how, like, you would argue that, yeah, just put Muppets on the rides and there you would have your movie. Like, you would keep mentioning that, and yet you somehow don't seem to bring up Muppets Haunted Mansion to go and strengthen your case. And I'm not saying that to go and, like, you know, say like, yeah, but Muppets Haunted Mansion though. No, use that for your argument. If you want to convince more people to put in Muppets on Disney rides themed movies, bring that up. Because we already got a legitimate example, and that actually worked out well for it. In fact, it actually turned out to be one of the more liked Muppet projects in recent years. So I'm just giving you advice for the next time you want to go and bring this up and have that argument. Try to strengthen your case. Bring up Muppets Haunted Mansion, because apparently Fozzie Bear as the Hatbox Ghost actually did a lot of wonders. Let's see. All right. Okay, yeah. You know what? Disney has had worse movie ideas. Club 33 has always had a hair of mystery and elegance to it, so I could see them making a high-class noir mystery flick out of this. I remember when we all thought Pirates of the Caribbean would never make a good movie, and we were so wrong about everything. Maybe this will be also a surprise hit. Just the very idea of a Club 33 movie makes me curious enough to check it out. Exactly, sometimes weirdness can be like a great appeal. Like, why would Disney do this? Let's see where they would go with it. All right, let's see, where else, well, what other comments would we go? Yeah, I might as well go with this one. Oh, great, what is it? Seriously, this is one of those cases that the more you try to explain it, the more confusing it gets. Like, this sounds like a hutch piece of random suggestions for a film, and they could come up with that. You might as well make it a Roger Rabbit-like movie, or a sequel, or a full-on spin-off with all those characters. Funny enough, I thought I would actually ask for a Small World movie. Think like Around the World in 80 Days if it were an animated musical. What do you think? You know, it's interesting because I've heard on multiple occasions Disney has tried to make an It's a Small World movie, but it would just never really work out. So honestly, I would not be surprised if I would hear soon at some point they would make a Small World movie. I mean, they've been trying with Jungle Cruise and the Haunted Mansion again, so I don't know, maybe, and again, like, they are trying with Space Mountain, with Journey into Imagination, so maybe they could do one of It's a Small World, who knows? All right, I'll go with one more comment, and then we're going to move on to our final story. This is such a weird idea. I myself never really heard of Club 33 before, but this is just bizarre. Seriously, I honestly can't believe Disney is so desperate to make movies based on attractions in their parks. It's just comical. Seriously, what's next? Are we gonna get a movie based on a Disney store? Who knows? The options are endless at this point. Exactly. It's like everywhere, you know? It's all crazy. It's just, you know that there's so many things that you can do now. You know, it's like Figment says, just use your imagination. Take anything you see at the Disney parks, and with your imagination, they'll be turned into a movie. You can do it with Test Track. You can do it that... Oh, hi, Seth. What are you doing here? All right, but anyways, we're going to go on to our last break, and when we do return, we will go on to the grand finale, and we will be discussing about the downfall of a very hated YouTuber. But this is one, honestly, that when it comes to these kinds of downfalls and YouTube controversies, oh boy, this one is nasty. It's one of the nastiest ones yet, so stay tuned for that. And now, everyone, it is now time that we will conclude this episode off with the grand finale. And with this finale, we're going to be talking about one specific YouTuber, one that I have previously talked about in this podcast related to another controversy that has happened a few years ago. But this YouTuber in particular, oh boy, he went through a pretty nasty downfall. And we have seen some pretty bad downfalls in recent years when it comes to controversial YouTubers. We have seen the downfall of James Somerton after he got called out for some serious plagiarism throughout his videos. And then there's also another one with Gerard Khalil, aka the Completionist, in which he was caught for possible charity fraud. And at that point, you wouldn't think things wouldn't get worse from there. But oh no, things can get even worse than you could imagine. In fact, I would argue that it is going to be hard to top this controversy, to top this kind of downfall in particular. And who I'm talking about, of course, is in regards to Nick Rekieta. Yes, the Minnesota lawyer and the far-right YouTuber, in which recently he was arrested. Why though? Well, before I get into why specifically, allow me to go and tell you a little story about Nick Rekieta. In fact, there is this little thread here by Catherine Twosome on Blue Sky that actually did a very good report, like this really good thread, this good thread summarizing about the history of Nick Rekieta. So he actually his rise of fame actually started back in 2019 when the Vic Mignogna controversy occurred. Some of you probably remember the whole Vic Mignogna controversy, in which at one point he was one of the most prolific English dub anime voices, but has been called out with tons of sexual harassment cases, some that can be pretty serious, that can go like full on near assault, and some that even included some minors also. But then came Nick Rekieta, who is an ultra, Trump-supporting conservative, and he's on the side of sexual predators. He's like one of those guys who is openly opposed to the hashtag Me Too movement and want to normalize the way that perverted and misogynistic men would go and treat women. So he was the one who convinced Vic that instead of apologizing and doing the right thing after being called out through this controversy, he encouraged Vic to go and sue some of the bigger names that are part of Vic Mignogna's victims, specifically Jamie Marchi and Monica Rial. So Vic Mignogna agreed, and he decided to go and sue them along with Funimation and Ron Toy for defamation, along with Nick Rekieta setting up a GoFundMe page that ended up becoming very successful and raised almost $300 million in order to go and make that case happen. And we all know what happened with those results, but we'll get to that later. And from there, Nick Rekieta slowly but surely became a superstar amongst the alt-right and culture war fanatics, where with his channel, Rekieta Law, he would go and make a name of himself by presenting a lot of legal analysis, but through the perspective of a white nationalist. And from there, not just with the Vic Mignogna case, but he would also get his fame and a lot of popularity when he would do that same kind of far-right analysis with the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard controversy, with the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, with the Kyle Rittenhouse case, where the more he would go and analyze this through this anti-woke lens, the more fame that he would receive both on Twitter and on YouTube. That was until not too long ago, and this is something that this thread actually brought up, where suddenly his fame would suddenly peak, and suddenly it then took a massive nosedive when YouTube took action and said, enough is enough. Now, I'm not 100% sure if they took down his channel entirely or maybe just took down his monetization, but like many far-right anti-woke influencers, Nick Rekieta would have a hard time trying to maintain his platform on YouTube, especially when that is his main source of income. And from there, it would happen occasionally where he would go and have his channel be temporarily suspended or have his monetization be taken down, because it has happened quite often where, in fact, some people would even say more often than not, where he would have some serious drinking problems, where he would end up being on his live streams drunk more so than he would sober. And from there, he would do some things that are like big no-nos in terms of community guidelines, where he would openly make death threats and he would openly demand for people to get doxxed for his own selfish needs. Not to mention that he has a history of actually doing so outside of YouTube, especially when he is considered a prolific celebrity on the website Kiwi Farms that really is all about making death threats and making not just death threats, but also doxing people and promoting like full-on Nazism. So from there, there was at one point where Nick Rekieta, actually, I'll just read this little post here that Catherine actually wrote. Shortly thereafter, Nick got thrown off of YouTube for threatening to dox people who have filed bar complaints against him. He moved to Odyssey and Rumble, but took an 80% pay cut by his own admission. So from there, because of that, so basically, because he got kicked off of YouTube, like, his revenue is just flat out gone. He probably still had his fans and he had his platform in other places, but the money was not there. It was not like what it used to be when he was covering the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. And from there, saying that he is an alcoholic would actually be considered a compliment, because as time would move on, and especially with the Vic Mignogna case being worse and worse, like, it got so bad where not only did it get dismissed with prejudice, but even the appeals got completely rejected, where Vic Mignogna and the far-right people that were associated with him had to take a massive L from that, especially Nick Rekieta, where now that trial is permanently scarred to his reputation. Like, things has just gotten worse and worse. And whenever he would be on live stream, he would be seen like not just drunk, but high off of his like just high off of his ass, like high as a kite, or like just on the fact that like he would take so many different substances, and it honestly shows. So much so to the point that even his fans has started to notice, and they saw that, yeah, things are really starting to be off with the guy. And even not too long ago, just a few days ago, actually, there was even this moment right over here. This is an example that Catherine actually put off. This is showing Nick Rekieta in one of his recent live streams. And you will see this dude, like, he's physically there, but mentally he is gone.
Make it is praised. Why would you do this? Why now?
Okay, I'm stopping right over here. Like, I'm gonna stop it right there. And there's a very good reason for that. Because you saw in that clip right there, like, this dude, like, he was just dazed off. Like, he was gone. He is taking a lot of substance. But the reason why I am stopping right here, and I'm just saying right now, if you want to see more of it, you have to look it up yourself. Because at that point, Nick Rekieta decided, you know what? He doesn't care about anything anymore. He's gonna wank. That's right. On live stream, Nick Rekieta was legitimately caught masturbating. Just live in front of the internet. Just right in front, like, just for everyone to go and see. And now there is a clip, like, permanently taken on the internet, and it's there forever, where he's just wanking. If you don't believe me, for those of you who have seen it, you can actually, like, confirm that. But, yeah, allegedly some say he was getting a BJ by his mistress. During the live stream? Are you... Either way, this is still bad. This is still awful. Oh, God. And from there... And then... This leads us to what actually happened. The arrest that has been made. And this is honestly what is so far the lowest point for Nick Rekieta. In fact, instead of just telling you what it is, because I'll just go and say right now that it's not just Nick Rekieta who got arrested, but also his wife got arrested, and there was another person who was also involved, and I've heard a lot of things about this other person. Some say that she is Nick Rekieta's mistress. Others say that apparently she is the babysitter, but either way, there's another person who was involved who was also arrested. And the rest, I'm going to read you here from my source on Fox 10, or specifically Fox 10 Phoenix, as it states right here. There we go, like over here. It is stated, according to the charges, law enforcement attempted to execute a search warrant on May 23rd at Rekieta's home in Spicer and was greeted by a girl at the front door who would not let them inside. After Rekieta refused to provide the door code, law enforcement used a door ram to get inside and found Kayla Imholt and 4 juvenile inside. Law enforcement proceeded to search the master bedroom and bathroom, where they allegedly found a variety of drug paraphernalia, including 3 small baggies that tested positive for cocaine, 8 green tablets that tested positive for ketamine, and a digital scale, and several other items that tested positive for cocaine, charges claim. Authorities also found a Sig Saucer AR with several magazines and loose ammunition underneath the bed, and spent shell casting on the bedroom floor, and located additional firearms and ammunition in the garage, according to court records. Police took Rekieta and his wife Kayla into custody, and he told law enforcement that he and his wife stayed in the master bedroom, where law enforcement claimed to find most of the drug paraphernalia, but allegedly refused to answer questions about the cocaine, according to court records. And that's why he was arrested. So that's why, like, he got sent to jail and was legitimately arrested. It was legitimately for drug possession and firearm possession. Now, this would have been seriously bad for Nick, because technically, the dude would have been arrested and be sent to prison for 25 years. But unfortunately, he's not going to be spending any of that, because as the Trump supporter that he is, like all Trump supporters, he is a spineless coward, and decided instead to go and spend the $50,000 bail in order to go and bail out. But still, though, the fact that this did happen, the fact that it was exposed that he had these drugs, that he had these firearms, like, this is permanent. This is going to destroy him and destroy his reputation. And oh my God, when I first read about that, when I first heard the dude was sent to jail, I legit had a big laugh about this. Like, honestly, I haven't had a case of schadenfreude like that in a long time. It honestly made me think back when I was calling out Nick Rekieta and, like, the whole Vic Mignogna controversy, that the GoFundMe page that he was running, it was a full-on scam. And that freaked him out a little bit. And that's why there was a period where a bunch of his fans, and I believe Nick himself, like, they responded with, like, debate me, bro. Why don't you debate me? If you think I'm running a scam, why don't you freaking debate me, bro? You know, like, doing that bull crap. And I even received a bunch of emails from those people saying, like, oh, I should debate Nick Rekieta. But as it turns out, good thing I had the intelligence to not do so, because otherwise I would be dealing with a legitimate crackhead. And I think, like, the fact that it was, the fact that he got caught, the fact that he has been possessing, like, cocaine and ketamine and stuff like that, I think that has already killed so much of his reputation right there. Why would you listen to legal analysis from some guy who is constantly hyped up on cocaine and ketamine, down to the point that it has permanently left some damage on his brain? Like, seriously, at this point, you cannot use Nick Rekieta as a godforsaken source, because I don't care, like, if he has a license to be a lawyer and stuff like that. The dude is always, like, drugged up out of his mind, like not just with the alcohol, but now even with the drugs as well. And I feel like honestly now we're starting to see a little bit of a theme going on. There's a bit of a pattern, not just with Nick Rekieta, but also with people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, with the fact that they have a history of stuff like cocaine and ketamine. It really goes to show that people with anti-woke views, they're no different than freaking crackheads and drug addicts. Because more often than not, they usually are. And case in point, one of them being Nick Rekieta right over there. But there is also one thing that I do want to go and discuss about, and there is something that honestly I would have had a constant laugh throughout. This would have been hilarious with what happened to Nick Rekieta finally getting that karma that he deserves. If it weren't for one thing that honestly makes it dangerous and serious, and that is the fact that there are children involved in this. It's the fact that, keep in mind, yes, Nick Rekieta is a father, and he has a whole bunch of children. And according to this report right over here, he has about like 4 of them. I heard some people even say that he has 5. There are unfortunately children that are caught in the middle of all this, where their parents are just like just so high off of their minds on ketamine and cocaine, and in an environment where firearms are just left like wherever. So it's at the point where honestly, like if we got to focus on something, we got to think about the children right over here, because it is inevitably clear that staying with the Rekietas, it puts their lives in danger, and that should be a massive high priority. Like, this is honestly a case right now where, for real, child protective services need to be called, and they need to be taken away from Nick Rekieta and his wife and that other woman that might be their mistress, because they are not in a well-protected area. And not to mention not to mention that is also part of the reason why he was arrested. It even says here, Rekieta was arrested Thursday along with his wife Kayla and a fellow online personality. Prosecutors filed charges against Rekieta and his wife on Friday for second-degree possession, child endangerment, and a gross misdemeanor firearm charge. And that's honestly the biggest thing that we need to go and like prioritize right now, is to make sure that first and foremost that these kids are okay. And if Nick Rekieta ever wants to go and try to regain his reputation, to regain his trust, then honestly, for Nick, the only thing that he can do to save himself right now is to be a good father. That he must first and foremost prioritize all that and even make some sacrifices in order to raise those children. And when I say sacrifices, by the way, I don't just mean give up on the cocaine and ketamine and give up on the guns. That's not what I'm saying. Like, not just give up on that, but also he needs to give up his platform. He needs to delete his accounts on Twitter, on YouTube, on Rumble, on wherever. Get rid of all of his platforms altogether. And on top of that, give up the whole culture, his whole culture war fascination. Like, give up on being that culture war icon that he wants to be. Give up on ranting about woke culture and all that. And even give up on some of his old politics. That he needs to set his own ultra-conservatism aside so that he can prioritize on being a good father, that he could be there for his kids and actually raise them correctly, instead of this like culture war fanatic, this anti-woke guy filled with drugs and firearms and stuff like that. He needs to let that all go for the sake of his kids, if he actually cares about his children, if he actually cares about being a good father. And don't worry about his wealth. Don't worry about the money that he has. If he actually is a good lawyer, as much as his fans claim that he could be, then he can make a living well by being a lawyer instead of being this anti-woke online personality. He could if he is a good father, and if he is as good of a lawyer as he is, then he could easily give up his online presence altogether so that he could focus on being a lawyer and doing his job in court and raising his kids as well. Now, that would be the case. Will he actually go and do that? I honestly don't know. But honestly, overall, just looking at this, there is no other way to say it. But honestly, Nick Rekieta is officially finished. There is, like, honestly, it's hard to really imagine that he could ever regain his reputation from there, because honestly, with everything that has been revealed, with the fact that he is a drug addict, that he had a bunch of cocaine and ketamine with him, that he's being especially irresponsible and even full-on neglectful as a father. Like, honestly, this case is legitimately so bad that even the other anti-woke personalities, they're backing away from Nick Rekieta. You know things are bad when even the quartering is looking at Nick Rekieta's situation and he's like, yeah, you're on your own, dude. Bye. Like, it really is that bad. But again, the only way that he could truly save himself is to be a good father and sacrifice his platform and his own conservatism for the sake of raising his kids properly and to actually be a good father. Otherwise, he is through. He is full on finished. He is nothing more but a complete detriment to everyone around him. He is a detriment to his own family, which has now been proven to be as a fact right over here, and especially with his arrest and what he has been charged with. He is a detriment to his own community, where it's people like Nick Rekieta. Why is it that liberals and anything that is woke would keep on winning on whatever culture war they would keep on trying to do? And he is a detriment to his community and his country. This, honestly, it's people like Nick Rekieta that should honestly be considered a legitimate illegal. I know that, like, with Republicans, they love talking about illegals and deporting them, but it's people like Nick Rekieta, first and foremost, are the kind that honestly should be deported, because he is just, like, honestly, he is just doing damage to himself and to everyone around him. He is through. He is finished. Like, this right over here, I just gotta say, this is the face of a man who is full on canceled. And even if he would desperately try to get back into his platform, to go and talk to, to go and, like, back to his usual shtick of attacking his haters and, like, throwing harassment, hate speech, death threats, and doxing to whoever he doesn't like, there's too much ammunition against him, especially with his arrest, with his cowardice nature of putting out a bail, with the clip of him masturbating when he's high off of his ass. He's through. He's just full on finished. I don't think there's any other way that he can go and save himself other than just quitting his platform, quitting his politics for the sake of his children. So, otherwise, and if he doesn't, well then, make sure Child Protective Services come in quick in order to save them from a monster like Nick. So anyways, now with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and now I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the downfall of Nick Rekieta? I know there's a lot to go and soak in, but I'd like to know your thoughts on that. All right. This is something that's absolutely crazy. The fact that Nick Rekieta got arrested after so much of a fraud that he is, and after he tried to defend Vic Mignogna, is just so satisfying. However, I do hope those kids are okay and will be safe. Seriously, I never thought there would be a downfall this year worse than Chugga Conroy, but here we are. Exactly, man. It's like, how the fridge can you top what Nick Rekieta did in terms of your downfall? Holy crap. Let's see. Wait, he's the blackface lawyer? The same one? Oh yes, that is the same one. Oh Christ, this better be good this time. Yeah, I remember Nick Rekieta. He's one of the worst in the anti-woke world, aka hell. I would absolutely call Child Protective Services if I knew if I knew where he was in order to save the kids. The anti-woke community really did ruin America for everyone in it. This is why no one around the world takes America seriously, because of people like him. Yeah, I agree, Matt. He is done. Exactly. Let's see. Looks like karma has finally caught on to him as he was arrested for drug abuse along with other things. Also gross for wanking off on a live stream while being high. I feel like he should be in prison for a long time despite bailing out of jail, as he is a dangerous individual that he shouldn't be around anyone or his kids. He is a disgusting man who deserves to have his reputation be destroyed. Yeah, honestly, it's one of those things that whatever you would wish upon him, what he does to himself is so much worse. Let's see. I'm just gonna let it slide and say I have no comment. No comment, man. Everything I'll say will start with the letter D. That entire description was just discriminating, disturbing, and disgusting. Of course, not the first time I've heard anything like this, but never this insane. You sure no one can come back from that? Now, I don't want to be off topic, but one positive thing to end off here is happy 80th birthday to Frank Oz. Yes, of course. And happy 50th to Miss Piggy, too. Let's see now. From a roller coaster of emotions about Disney to a karmic comedy of errors, I've never heard of this guy before, but you made me insanely dislike him. I'm glad other alt-right grift-tubers got well-deserved justice. Scumbags like him don't deserve to participate on our society. Let's hope more alt-right grifters like the Quartering, Yellow Flash, and Nerdrotic will also soon be behind bars. Yeah, I think that's honestly the big question. Like, if Nick Rekieta can go down like that, especially with that kind of behavior, that's the big question. Which alt-right YouTuber is going to be next to see that kind of downfall? Because if Nick Rekieta would do something like this, then you know some of the others would as well. You know that they got some pretty bad skeletons that the police will find out very soon. Let's see. I want Nick Rekieta to end up getting karma. Now, I disagree with certain things you're saying, but overall, Nick Rekieta, I hope he gets the help and maybe disappear from the internet. That's all I have to say. I hope Vic Mignogna has disconnected from Nick Rekieta. Yeah, hopefully Vic realizes that the biggest mistake that he has ever done in his life is listen to Nick Rekieta. Because Vic honestly would have had a chance to actually regain his reputation, that he would have been back being the prolific and beloved voice actor that he was. But because he decided to take the route that Nick Rekieta took, that's why Vic Mignogna is pretty much finished. That's why he is blacklisted from the entire industry. If you want anyone to blame on the downfall of Vic Mignogna, it's mainly Nick. Alright, I'll read one more comment before we cap this off here. Let's see now. Which one have not read, honestly? Okay, yeah. Damn, we've seen a lot of downfalls of YouTubers like Leo Convoy, SS Sniper Wolf, and Illuminati, but in Nick Rekieta's case, oh my god, what the hell is he thinking? I'm very glad and happy that the blackface lawyer and his wife got their just desserts and excuse me, and be behind bars. Also, let's not forget that he also has kids, and I really hope they deserve far more caring and support parents than the far-right supporters. And that is definitely no laughing matter here. Exactly. First and foremost, save the kids. And Nick, if you ever want to go and save your reputation, delete your platform. Run away from the internet, because honestly, you're canceled, dude. And with that said, that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Thank you all so much for joining me on this wild ride of an episode. And also, I would like to go and say that if you would like to go and watch more of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, don't forget to go and subscribe to my AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel or the AniMat Live Twitch channel. But at the same time, if you would also like to go and follow me on whatever podcast service you're listening to, then don't forget to go and follow me on Spotify, Amazon, and iTunes. And with that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.